2003 Thanksgiving, we always head back to New Rochelle, New York for Grandma's Thanksgiving. And when we were going to fly on the Monday, Solaine seemed a little under the weather, so Mom decided to stay home, and Tess and I went off for Thanksgiving. And every day we'd get sort of strange reports, and within like 2 or 3 days, she could no longer sit up, speak. And a friend of ours is an emergency room doc. He remembers it as vividly as I do on Saturday morning, saying, "Paul, you need to come home now." So on Monday morning, I left, a girl who I thought had a little bit of a head cold or, flu or something. And by the time I got back, she was basically non-responsive. It turned out she had encephalitis from an obscure source called mycoplasma. Ultimately, her case became one that sort of interested a lot of the academics at the U of A, because it truly was unique. They'd never seen. Mycoplasma typically gets into your lungs and can give you pneumonia, but as we discovered, if it gets into your corpus callosum, it can essentially shut down your entire motor function. It was just very strange, because we really had no idea, if this was the way it was going to be, or whether there'd be a recovery, or exactly what. And then we were sent home with a daughter who had a tube in her nose. She couldn't, eat regularly. We bought a lot of air mattresses because, she'd look all ready and all, but then you'd sit her up and she just couldn't sit up. We're getting close to Christmas, and that's when we call up the good folks at TMC and, basically opened up TMC for us over Christmas break, which is typically a time that they close down the shop, because they saw that there was a little girl who desperately needed something. From almost daily therapy for quite a period, it sort of winnowed after a while, but it was amazing, because by March she was back in school. So she never actually got left back in school. The thing was, she was still the brilliant little kid, but she was sort of trapped, and her brain wasn't quite telling her how to squeeze out the language, and her body wasn't quite saying, okay, left foot, right foot, all these things that we take for granted. She had to learn all over again. So at age 3.5, we had a little girl who had to learn how to basically do what a newborn does, learn how to speak and walk and do all these things all over again, which is a challenge for everybody in the family. And I think the true measure of how significant, for Solaine, it's significant at the most basic level, but I think the TMC experience is kind of cool, because she had her bat mitzvah earlier this year, where you have to do a mitzvah project, which is where you kind of do a good deed, something that's important to you, that you give something back. I'm glad the camera's not on. Where you give a little back to the community. And for Solaine, it was pretty obvious what she wanted to do, which was to go back to the TMC Pediatric therapy, where she worked so hard and would sit in on sessions with some of the kids, both to show the kids that if you work hard, you can end up happy and healthy like Solaine, and to show the parents, which is important, obviously, to parents, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And she's been doing it diligently, and now she's still doing it. She did her bat mitzvah in April, and she continues doing it, which is a wonderful reflection on how significant, how important it is to her. I went to her tennis match yesterday, and dadgummit, if she isn't going to play tennis, it's probably not the right sport for her, because spatial learning, depth perception, all these things are incredibly challenging for her. But dadgummit, if she doesn't get out there and get her serves in and, return her adversary shots as best she can. For Solaine, I just want her to just keep doing the best she can at everything she does. And I think she's figured it out, that she hasn't got to become her sister. Everything's been easy for Tess, and everything's been kind of easy for Mom and Dad. And sometimes us high achievers forget, that not only do some people have to work at stuff, but they can actually become stronger by having to work hard at stuff. And so Solaine's kind of the Avis in the family, the we try harder kind of kid, and I think she's gonna come out just fine.